My name is Les Wicker, and this is the second of our programs that we're going to do, and the title of our programs are 3 Things You Must Understand. And we talked last time about, just to kind of recap a few things of what we began to do, was we said that we're going to consider the workings of one eye in relation to the ideas of evolution and creation, and what makes sense when we consider the complexity that we see in the universe. And you remember that if you were with us last time that I held up these beautiful peacock feathers. I really wish I had a peacock rather than just the feathers of a peacock. But at any rate, maybe someday I'll get one. But these are awesome creations here. And among these are just one, member of the pheasant family among many that are just beautiful to look at. But before I get into the content, we left a young man over here working, and he took his blindfold off, but not before he had gone through a box. And we ran out of time, but he was working on this box of rocks, and I put inside this box of rocks one arrowhead, shaped kind of like this one that I drew on the board, and so that you could get the point that someone that is even blindfolded could pick out something that had design to it, that was purposeful, and that was intended to serve a useful function in someone's life. An arrowhead in this case would have been used to shoot at perhaps a deer or some game, or even a person if they were at war. And Lindsay, stand up here. And now, he was blindfolded, and you'll just have to trust me on that because our program ran out before he actually got through all the rocks. But Lindsay did find the arrowhead. Do you have the arrowhead, Lindsay? All right. There it is. Now, he found this arrowhead. Wait, let me put it against my shirt so you can see it better. He found this arrowhead with this blindfold over his eyes. So he was not even looking he could not see the arrowhead, he just felt of it. But he still, even just with this sense of feel, he was still able to discern design when he came across it with his fingers. Now, this is good. I mean, you could discern that. And the point we're trying to make here is that if it takes intellect and purpose and will and design to create and skill and dedication and all those kinds of things to create an arrowhead, how much more does it require intellect and design and purpose and will in order to create something as complex as the human eye? Well, this is what we're going to talk about this time. Okay, Lindsay, thank you. You did a good job. Now, we had never done that, by the way. He had not practiced that beforehand. That was the first time he'd ever tried it, and he did it the first time, and I knew he would, because we human beings have an amazing ability that I believe is God-given to discern design, because we see it all around us. Is it simple or is it complex? That's what we want to know. Is there design intention with purpose behind it? Because non-living matter does not look for a way to improve itself. All right, let's talk about the eye. The first job of the eye is to condense and convert light waves from the outside world into electrochemical connections that make other electrochemical connections in the back of your brain, the visual cortex, and thereby produce a full color, sharp focus, moving, real-time picture inside our heads. And we know that's what it does, but how does it do it? Well, you should know that a significant portion of what happens in the visual cortex is still unknown. In this age of medical technology, we still don't know really how it works. But let's just consider the round organ itself and not get into the visual cortex at all in this program. Let's consider the round organ, and we'll go from there. Let me get this get some space up here for us to work. First of all, erase the arrowhead and the rocks. All right. Now, let's first just draw a circle. This is the orb of the eye. Now, the eye is like a ball. It's a sphere. Everything, first of all, emits light waves and must be condensed to get back into the eye. Initially, that process is begun by the cornea, which if the eyeball is pointing, let's say, this direction, the cornea is a bit of a bulge that comes off of the eye, like this. Light waves, if we were looking, let's say, at a tree, kind of like a spruce tree, this kind of thing out here, this tree and everything that we look at, it comes in and begins to be focused by the cornea. And what it does is it refracts light. It refracts the light waves that are coming in. And it bends them. It bends the light waves. So what has to happen, the reason the eye works, it has to take in this broad view and it has to condense it. It has to get it into the eye. It's much smaller than it actually is. So the cornea actually begins to refract the light. It is like the first lens of the eye. It's not the actual lens of the eye, but it is like a lens in some ways. Within the cornea itself, which is a transparent convex window to the eye, is a pressurized liquid that assists in giving the cornea this bulge that we see here. It's necessary to bend the light waves, and it's called the aqueous humor. The aqueous humor is inside of this. It's a pressurized fluid. Now the cornea, along with the whites of the eye that is exposed to bacterial invaders, is washed constantly with a specialized antibacterial fluid that is produced by special glands back behind your eye, and it's distributed across the eye involuntarily by involuntary blinking. You blink all of your waking hours, whether you realize it or not. Sometimes you do, but most of the time you don't even realize you're doing it. You're blinking, and throughout the day, and that is to keep your eye clean and keep bacterias and invaders out. The eyelashes also protect the eye. The fact that and there's an accelerated nerve response whenever any object gets close to your eye. Not to mention the fact that the whole eye is set back into a socket for protection. I'll mention too, in the interest of deciding whether this is simple or complex, purposeful design or blind chance, that within your 100 trillion or so cells, each of which contain information roughly equivalent to a public library, every single one of those 100 trillion or so, there is a microscopic, opaque, rope-like substance, generally known as collagen. Now, it's opaque throughout the body, that is, except for one place, where the rope-like structure changes into a matrix form and becomes perfectly transparent.